uninterrupted, of course, most of the time. Hang on. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show as we watch a major winter storm unfold along the east coast of the United States, and we'll let you know how it got there, where we think it's going, what to expect, and when to expect it. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Omni True Value Hardware, and they're busy today. If you need anything to help you clean up from this winter storm, like maybe your snowblower is broken and you find out you try to turn it on and it won't go. Well, get over to Omni and they've got plenty of snowblowers of various sizes, including that beautiful 30-inch blade one. They have spreaders, shovels, the snowblowers, of course, as I showed you, Pelado, mag, ice pellets and flakes, and tons of rock salt, the largest supplier of rock salt on Long Island, serving the entire New York, New Jersey, Connecticut tri-state area. 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York on Long Island. 6317-561-1125 is the website and is the telephone number. I'm getting punchy, Joe. And the website is
OmniTrueValue.com.
Yes, exactly. Oh, you know what? I'm tired. I don't know about you, but I'm wiped.
I understand. I understand. It's what else can you say? It's
Yeah,
and it hasn't even and the thing that has worn us down hasn't even arrived yet, or is
Yeah, well, it's
about to
about to
arrive.
arrive. Here's the thing. I got to a point today where I couldn't even look at another map anymore. I just couldn't stand it. But I'm done with that. And that's uh, usually when we get inside 24 hours, I really don't spend a whole lot of time on the models. I just kind of peek at them and then go on my merry way. By the way, it snowed here a little while ago in the mountains of North
Oh,
Georgia. Just so you know, you're not the only one. I seem to be doing it every time you guys are snowing up there. I wind up with a little snow down here. Some of the higher tops are going to wind up with a coating to an inch or two. And in fact, just 20 miles northwest of me in the mountains in western North Carolina, winter storm warnings are up. I didn't look at their forecast to see what they're going for, but I imagine it's got to be above 4,000. Actually, no, it might be even down to the lower levels because the it's getting cold. It's going to get cold here tonight, Joe. Probably get down to 15 by tomorrow morning. Your cold air is
that is
headed
pretty
my
cold.
way.
Well, Joe, we want to share the love, so to speak.
Yes, you should. Absolutely should. Okay. Everybody that's here tonight on the chat board, welcome. Those of you who were here last night, welcome back. And also, thank you very much for those of you who hit super chats yesterday on my birthday. It was incredibly generous of you, and I really do appreciate it very much. Thank you. So, before the show starts, I would just like to point out to those of you on the chat board to please read the pinned message at the top of the chat board, and thank you for reading it and abiding by it. All right, so let's get to it. Hopefully, Joe, hopefully I don't make a lot of technical mistakes tonight because, like I said, I'm tired, and I found myself struggling at the keyboard hitting the cap, trying to get capital letters and then not unlocking the cap lock and having to go back and forth. It's locked, it's not locked, it's locked, it's not locked. It was, it's a real strain today. So anyway, on that note, why don't we? Jay-Z videography, our first super chat hit tonight, Joe. Why don't you go ahead and read, and I could set up the first map.
Okay, let's read from Jay-Z Videography. Good evening, Joe and Joe. Well, this is it. Currently watching the radar. Went out to Republic Airport to make sure the plane was well tied down. And now back in Queens, New York, with all of my cameras ready to film the storm as the night wears on. Thanks and stay safe. And we will try to do that. Joe, here at the home base, we uh, we got some additional gas just in case we're going to need the generator, and I do hope we do not use it at all. over the weekend and moved everything around in the garage and have the snow blower all set and ready to be rolled out tomorrow afternoon. And it looks like we are looking for, at least in my vicinity, I haven't had a chance to see your forecast yet, but in my area, I bumped my 2 to 4 up to 4 to 8. And
Okay. Uh,
I would think that that's going to be enough. I would hope that that's going to be enough. I really do
right.
not want to see more than 8 out there tomorrow. I think for me, it's pretty well going to be over said and done by midday or early afternoon, save for a few leftover or lingering snow showers. But even during the afternoon and early evening, whatever snow has fallen is going to be blown all over the place by incredibly strong north to northwest winds, maybe gusting at times to over 40 or 45 miles an hour.
Yeah. Uh, I think the biggest variable right now in the forecast is not really what we're going to get precipitation wise, because I think that's pretty well locked in stone. I mean, it might be a little higher than what's being advertised, or maybe a little lower than what's being advertised. I think the biggest variable in terms of the snowfall amounts that's going to be it's going to be the snow ratios. How low? I'm sorry. How high do the snow ratios get tomorrow morning when the temperatures drop through the 20s and even get down into the upper teens? I was looking at some of the soundings, by the way, as everybody's watching the radar tonight on the screen. It is in the process of filling in. We're starting to see some bands of precipitation, some heavier precipitation in the green. I did notice today on the observations that the areas that normally in the blue areas you don't really most of that doesn't reach the ground, but sometimes when you're getting ready for an intense storm, and especially if you've got the beginnings of some kind of flow with moisture coming in off the Atlantic, or you've got a good moisture source, those blue areas can actually produce light snow, and then you start to get into the darker green, the lighter greens. That becomes a steady snow, and then the darker greens become moderate. So the area to watch now is all down through here. We got a few holes, but the radar's trying to fill in, and it might take another couple of hours to do it, as all of that is going to lift up to the northeast. We've got precip actually going back to the Ohio Valley. But back to the snow ratios, uh, that's the big thing. And I was looking at some soundings on some of the various models, and if it's snowing hard enough, Joe, those temperatures could actually undercut the undercut what's being forecast, which is down mostly upper teens and low 20s. It could be mid-teens to around 20 in a lot of areas. So if those ratios get down to 15 to 1 while we're getting heavy snow coming down, that's going to skew the amounts higher, especially in those places to the east that wind up snowing longer. So that's one thing to watch, I think, with regards to snow amounts.
Yeah, but you know what, Joe? The other thing to consider is that as those temperatures drop and as we go toward that 15 to 1 ratio, a lot of the snow will already be behind us. I think by midday and early
Uh,
afternoon,
it
at
depends.
least in the
Depends
immediate
on.
tri.
Yeah, it depends on your. I think depends on your location. If you're east of New York
Right.
City, the heavy snowfall is going to coincide with those falling temperatures. So, and those areas are the ones that have the best chance of getting over a foot, which makes sense.
Correct. Correct. And the other thing to consider about trying to estimate or guesstimate snow amounts is the location of the cutoff line to the north and northwest. I mean, it's going to be a sharp cutoff line probably, and just where the snow cuts off and who gets nothing or hardly anything compared to other places not a few miles away down the road who will get at least a few inches. That's another factor in trying to figure out what or where or who or what is going to get out of this. But it certainly looks very imposing and very impressive.
I have my snowfall forecast map that I made last night at uh, about almost midnight. I didn't get to bed till 1 o'clock in the morning, and I had to get up at 5. But anyhow, there's your map, and I bumped my amounts up. I have the western edge of 4 in northwest Jersey. cutting close to, but not quite to Allentown, just to the east of Allentown. 6, move it down, say to central Passaic County, perhaps, and then running down into Hunterdon County. You can see my 8. I have you, Joe, between 6 and 8. So you have yourself between 4 and 8. I have you between 6 and 8. And then I have 8 and 10 running in northeastern Jersey down to Trenton, east of Philadelphia, east of Wilmington, and then the 10-inch line, uh, southwest Connecticut, actually running from Connecticut, from Hartford to Waterbury to the southwest corner of Fairfield County, into North Queens and Brooklyn, down the Jersey Shore, but west of the Parkway, and then I have 15 plus for Suffolk County, 15 plus for southeastern Connecticut, 15 plus for southeastern New England, and that's pretty much. I was going for 10 plus in those areas, and I just bumped those up by 5. And in the areas that I was going for 8, I bumped that up to 10. The 6 became 8. And so I basically bumped up my accumulations by 2 inches, heading from west to east.
Okay, well, if you
You want to
allow
share?
me to share mine,
Um,
I'll
of course. And while I'm quickly setting that up, I know we were supposed to have meteorologist Geoff Bansen, graduate of FiOS 1 News, graduate of News 12, graduate of Pix 11 when he was working there when I was there. He was off air producing, and I'm the reason he got there, by the way. But he was supposed to be here, and I haven't heard from him, so I have absolutely no idea what's going on. So if he shows up, he shows up, and if he doesn't, he is going to have one ton of explaining to do. But no matter. It is your screens. It will be your screen as soon as I switch. Oh, good Lord! Hang on, Joe. I'm sorry. As soon as I switch it, Joe Rayo's monitoring the chat board tonight, so if you've got something to say and to share with us, a question, a comment, uh, let us know. And by the way, for Patreon members, for those of you who are on my subscription platform on Patreon, pay attention, because after this live stream is over, I'm going to post I'm going to post this Zoom link and have a Zoom session, if you'd like to call it that, and we can talk about what's going on. You can maybe ask me a few questions. Perhaps we could do a quick live stream of the NAM model when it's coming out. So just hang on there, and after the show, and I'll be posting it on the Zoom link on the Patreon platform, because this will be a Zoom for Patreon members only. Now, Mr. Rayo, you may have the screen.
Okay. And another thing, some people are saying that I'm a little hard to hear tonight compared to you, Joe. And the reason is that a couple of nights ago you were having problems with your headphones, and now tonight I'm having problems with my wonderful headphones. I tried charging up the battery, and there's no little light flashing indicating that they are charging. And I tried turning these things on before the show, and nothing is working. And that's it. Nothing is working. So I really don't understand what's going on here. So
Technology,
I'm
Joe.
hoping I'm going to be able.
Technology.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right. Enough with that. Let's show you my map. Share it here, and there you go. And like I said, I was wrestling with where that cutoff line would be. It may, according to this map, I'm thinking that it might actually cut off to such a degree that parts of Sullivan and northwestern Ulster counties may not get much of anything out of this. Meantime, a stone's throw away to the east and in eastern sections of Sullivan and Ulster, you may see as much as 2 to 4 inches. And then as you continue the track east and south, you run into a swath of 4 to 8 inches, which covers, I have a good part of Orange County, all of Rockland County, much of Putnam County, including Moi, the home base here, and Dutchess County. And then you go continuing south and east, and you find that a good part of Westchester County including New York City and including a good part of the western end of Connecticut, seeing maybe as much as 8 to 12. And then you continue east and, well, central Long Island, western Suffolk County, back in your stomping grounds, Joe, 12 to maybe 16 inches. And finally, for the Twin Forks, way out east,
Whoa, you really went
16
off the deep end over there, Joe. You went 18 to 24. Wow, good. Oh,
Oh, I
you're
went
you're you're
16 to
higher than
24.
you're higher than me.
16 to 24, yes, which is
Well,
very unusual because
well,
I'm
well,
usually
well,
Mr. Conservative, aren't
well, I
I?
did. Well, wait, but let me take that back. So basically, I said 15 plus rather than give it a range. So I said 15 plus. So 12 to 16 means that the 15 is at the high end of your range, and the 15 at the 16 to 24, the 15 is the baseline lying just below your range, the start of your range. But I got the plus sign, so I'm covered if it goes over 15. My own belief is I'm not good at picking out a top number, and I've tried it before. I've succeeded sometimes, not succeeded in others. I rather at a certain point, I just think you're getting a lot of snow. I think that should be understood. So if I put down 15 plus and you wind up with 22, and you complain, then I have a real problem with you because that's just being you're being, well, the word I want to use I can't use. Okay, but no matter. But you get the message. It's fine. I mean, I don't have any problem. This is a very tough forecast because of all the issues we talked about, and I think it still remains a tough forecast. And we're going to let the radar and the satellite and the observations. And speaking of observations, my one of my snow removal guys, Paolo, is out in Westbury on Long Island, and he said there's a coating on the ground and it's beginning to snow steadily. So that's another thing that's happening with the radar. When we showed it to you earlier, folks, it's basically filling in. A lot of the stuff that's blank is going to not be uh, blank in about an hour or two. So all that stuff is going to be filling in as the storm system gets energized. So why don't we take a look at what WPC, our friends, Joe, our wonderful friends at the Weather Prediction Center, who are glued to this show on a regular basis. Tony Gigi last night practically confirmed that. Um, and I do mean practically. Okay, so I'm going to switch this. Let's do the, you know what? Let's do the probability of 12. And this forecast was issued. This might be an old forecast. Yeah, it's from this morning. So let me freshen this up. Um, it's right on. I'm sorry. I got to answer just uh, a quick message here to my snow removal guys. You tell them what time you think the snow would arrive, and I said between breaking out between 7 and 7 o'clock. It's 7:51. So what do they ask? What does he ask me? Is it coming in earlier than expected? I know they're not weather experts, but I gotta laugh sometimes when you get some of you get some of these questions, and you've already given the answer to it about 10 times, and you got to keep answering it. And anyway, no matter. I don't want to dig myself into a deeper hole. Here's the probability of at least 12, Mr. Rayo, from the Weather Prediction Center. And the 50% line is the darkest blue is 40. So we'll use the next color, which is the slightly less dark blue in southern Delaware and points north. And the 50% probability of at least 12, they've got the western edge at New York City. And over Suffolk County, they have the salmon, which is an 80% probability of at least 12, extending into eastern Connecticut, covering Rhode Island, eastern Massachusetts, probably from Worcester east. And then, of course, you see it's 95 to 100% for Boston, and the areas nearby to the west of Boston to the Rhode Island state line. Joe, do I dare hit the probability of 18?
Why not?
Let's hit the probability of at least 18. And you might be surprised here that they actually have, Joe, they have a 20% chance of 18, almost back to New York City. They actually have I take that back. The 20% chance of at least 18 from the Weather Prediction Center, folks, is back to New York City and runs north and east. They have a 50% chance of at least 18 in Suffolk County, and in eastern Massachusetts, south of Boston, they have a 80% chance of at least 18. I don't think I don't think that we need to do the 24, or should I?
Oh, what the heck, Joe? I mean, here
I
we
don't
all
think they did
are.
anything for 20. Oh, they actually did something for 24. Look at that. And for Long Island, they've got a 20% chance, Joe, of at least 24. We don't get the opportunity to push that 24 button around here very often. If you were doing the weather or showing you the weather, what's going on in the Sierra Nevadas and the Cascades, yes, but not here. In southeastern New England, an area of 50%, and even touching Cape Cod, a 50% chance that there could be 24. Again, this is the Weather Prediction Center. It's not Joe Rayo and it's not Joe Chaffee.
Now, dare you go for the probability for 30 inches?
I don't think I they did put something for 30. They did. I'm shocked. They actually have a 20 to 30% chance there in southeastern Massachusetts for 30. Again, though, that's the folks from
They're
the Weather Prediction Center.
they're so they're
They're
really
gun
into this.
they're
They're
gun
really
ho about
serious about.
this.
Yep,
Makes my 15
yep,
plus look rather shabby, doesn't it?
yes, it does. No, the 15 plus is simply an open-ended. I mean, if you get 17 or 25 or
Right.
53, you're still going to be right because that's
Oh no no.
15 plus.
I know I understand. I'm trying to get the the WPC surface map here, the zoom map. So give me a moment here to find it. I just did. And of course, we're coming up by the way of the anniversary of the half blizzard of 2015, the famous half blizzard with the famous very sharp cutoff line. So we're kind of working a similar situation tonight. We talked about the half blizzard earlier. Now here's the 21Z surface map, and this is where Joe, you and I would sit down many moons ago, and you would hand plot something like this to find where all the lows are. And there's your coastal low. It's still only 1,005 low. They've got it plotted probably just west of 75 west and right along 30 degrees north. All your winds on the North Carolina coast are from the northeast, and we are seeing winds northeast across North Carolina. And as we go further north, I don't know if you see the numbers, maybe you see it on a big screen. You start to see the colder temperatures, and of course we're watching this Arctic boundary that approached today, and it stalled out, and now it's basically going to fall apart. And once this storm gets going, all these frontal zones that you see here will disappear, and the colder air that's up to the north, the temperatures, Joe, looking up on the Canadian side of New York State, running in the single digits, and then a little further north than that, you start to get into below zero and double digit below zero. Our air is going to be coming from northeastern Canada and Labrador and screaming down the entire eastern seaboard all the way to the southeast and into Florida. So this storm is going to have a huge impact, not just from the standpoint of the winter storm conditions that it's going to produce, but we also have to consider the fact that there's going to be a ton of cold air. They're forecasting, as I said, a low of 15 for me in the mountains of North Georgia. I'm in that. If you look at in northeast Georgia, where the isobar comes out of that yellow area, that's where I am. I'm in there. I'm in those mountains. And there's an observation there to the northeast. I don't know what station that is. It's 3431. They've got two little asterisks there. Those are snowflakes. So they were they were having a little bit of light snow. Must be a mountain station. I'll have to find out which one it is. It's not close to me. The one that's close to me is the one that's 3722 on the other side of North Carolina, just northwest of Murphy, North Carolina.
I also must say that this is a rather unique situation that we're looking at, Joe, because late last night I went to my Paul Cosin and Louis Ussolini uh, lithograph of storms, famous storms going back to the 1950s that have dumped very heavy snowfall on the immediate tri-state area. And what makes this unique is that all of those storms, every single one, had the coastal system begin or evolve along the mid-Atlantic coastline and then moved on a northeast trajectory past us and dumped lots of snow our way. I was not able to find any storm, and there were quite a few of them, going back a few dozen of these historic events of the past. I was not able to find a single storm that started now off of the Florida coast or off of the South Carolina, Georgia coast. None of them did that. They were
Well,
all either
of the big ones though, that would have qualified for that would have qualified for the whatever criteria they were using. I mean, we have seen storms. I can recall a few of them going back that started off the Florida coast, and actually, I remember reading about a couple of them that started even further out than this that moved straight north. It's an odd. It doesn't happen too often. It's an odd situation because you have to have a really deep, sharp trough that extends all the way down to Cuba, like this one does or will, and the southern part of that trough has to have a lot of the energy because if it doesn't, then it's just really a cold front with maybe a low that's further north. But yeah, it is a little it's rare. It's rare, and maybe this will be the first one that they might consider uh, writing about.
well, if they ever did a revision to any of those, they did actually two versions of that book. If they ever come back and get together, Paul Cosin and Louis Cicilline, who just retired as head of the National Weather Service, um, if they ever get together and do a third book, this one that we're looking at right now, straight in the eye, would certainly be qualifying as one of those storms that they would have to include in a new or an updated or revised version, because this is certainly looks like every bit of a major. I see the thing that I'm looking at here is how quickly will we see the explosive deepening take place? If this takes a bit longer than what the models are suggesting, and also if the storm after it explodes suddenly intensifies so much that it rapidly races away to the north and east, we may not end up with quite as much snow as many of our forecasts are suggesting right now. And this is yet another problematic situation to add on to. This storm has many layers to it in terms of forecasting, and so um, I would hope that you and I and a lot of the forecasters are at least going to be, if not right on target, at least close.
Yeah.
We don't want any surprises with a situation like what we're looking at right now. But in the pit of my stomach, there's something I think that's going to happen that we did not anticipate, and we'll be back here probably tomorrow or whenever and
Well, the key
discuss what happened.
the key is going to be that upper low that is going to form off the Delmarva Peninsula, and if it takes longer to form, that is going to complicate things with regards to what's in the forecast, and I think that's one of the things what you just said. I think that's one of the things, and maybe probably the most important thing, because if that upper low doesn't form, the ocean low, the ocean surface low, because there are two lows here. If you look carefully on
Right.
the guidance, and we'll look at it in a moment. If you look carefully on the guidance that's out there, whatever model it is, a lot of times you'll see 1L printed, but if you look at the isobars, what you'll see on almost all of them is to the southwest of that, you'll see a two or three closed isobars, and it's all stretched from southwest to northeast. The ocean low is out on the northeast part of it. That those closed isobars, that is a low that is forming underneath the upper low, and that upper low is close to the coast. That's why all that precip is pinned back the way it is. We'd get a clue, Joe. We'll get a clue from that. I think we're already getting a clue from that from how the radar signature is, because if that were not going to form, you would not see all that precip. Well, actually, you probably have to wait later on tonight and tomorrow morning. If that upper low is going to form and that surface low that's to the southwest is going to be important, then you're going to see all the precip arc back from the ocean westward like a comma. If that low doesn't form and it's more the ocean low, then your radar echoes are going to cut off much further to the east. So the radar is going to tell you exactly what's going on. Doug Wetzel hitting Super Chat tonight. Thank you, Douglas. Thank you very much. And by the way, we have 163 likes, Mr. Rayo, already. So we'd love to get over 200. If you like the show, hit the like button and get us over 200. Welcome to our new viewers tonight. We've got over 500 people watching now, and it's nice to have you here. If you're new to the channel, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel just by simply hitting the subscribe button and doing it with your Gmail account, and then you could get notifications that the Joe and Joe Show is on 5 days a week, although sometimes we're going to do a sixth day or a seventh day. This is our sixth day because usually we don't do a show on Fridays, but because of the storm, we are. So thank you for those of you who've hit the like button and now have taken us over the 200 mark. So Joe and I can happily continue. Let's do some watches and warnings because we got a slew of them up and down the East Coast from Maine all the way to Florida. As I said earlier, the impact of this system is a lot. It's big. It runs from the from northern Maine all the way down to southern Florida. And I'm trying to get this map to come up. Let's see if I'm going to be successful. Am I going to be successful?
And thank you,
No.
Thank you, Leon Probitsky, for hitting super chats this evening. Thank you very much, and Doug Wetzel, you too. I don't want to leave you out. You also hit super chats, and we thank you. And let me just second the emotion that Joe said 10 minutes ago. I was just blown away by all of you who hit the super chat board last night. It was just absolutely incredible, and we certainly do indeed appreciate it, especially the birthday boy yesterday.
Yes, I did. Very much
Who's not
so.
just 2 years.
Very,
Who's not
very.
just 2 years away from
Go
He was
ahead.
not just 2 years away from going through 2 years away from going through all the confusion that I went through earlier, or actually last year, in signing on to Medicare. But you're not a Medicare baby just yet, Joe.
Yes.
Still got 2 more years to go.
Before we get to our special guest, who apparently is neither on standard time nor on daylight saving time, or perhaps he confused the two.
Ah, 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 ah.
I don't even know if he can hear me because he's
Ah.
not speaking at the moment. But
He's got his headphones
but you
off.
got to admit, Joe, I'm as subtle as a garlic
Oh,
sandwich. Anyway, here's your watches and warnings tonight. Blizzard warnings. A lot of blizzard warnings up. We haven't had a map like this on the East Coast in a few years. A blizzard that I can recall. Of course, I don't recall very much anymore. We've got blizzard warnings in down East Maine, blizzard warnings in eastern Massachusetts, eastern and southeastern Massachusetts out to the Cape, and also into southeastern Rhode Island. Suffolk County on Long Island, which is basically two-thirds of Long Island going out. Winter storm warnings to the west, back to New York City and into northern New Jersey. We have blizzard warnings up for for southeastern Connecticut. Warnings that are north and west of the coastline. You notice the winter storm warnings that go all the way up. Blizzard warnings for the coastal counties of New Jersey, the southern Delaware, and the rest of the Delmarva Peninsula. Winter storm warnings for parts of the coast of Virginia, and weather advisories for the rest of the state down into North Carolina. We have winter storm warnings up for western North Carolina. In Georgia, I want to see what this is. They've got what looks like a red flag warning, but I don't understand. I mean, unless they're using that to talk about the cold, I'm not sure. Let's see what they're saying here. on their red flag warning, which covers the entire state, is in effect. Oh, yeah, they actually do. For low relative humidities and high winds for much of north central Georgia for tomorrow. So I thought maybe they'd put out a statement regarding how cold it is, but I guess they aren't. And Joe, in Florida, I think these are the light blue. Is that wind chill advisories or frost advisories? I got to see this.
In what part?
Oh, yes. Well, hark, hark. Do I hear a footfall? Is that you, Don Juan? Huh? Are you
Those are
there?
wind chill
Those are
advisories.
wind chill
Those are wind chill
advisories.
advisories.
Oh, you finally decided
Yes.
to show up, didn't you?
Um, I
Everything
don't.
okay?
Everything is fine. I was taking care of the
Oh,
baby.
all right.
I
Then you know what you get.
forgot to set an alarm.
Been there,
That's
been
okay.
there, done that.
Right. You you get
Yeah.
you get a pass. Our special guest tonight is meteorologist Geoff Bansen, graduate of the FiOS 1 News School of Weather, graduate of the News 12 School of Weather, graduate of the WPIX TV School of Weather, for which I was able to get you in that school. And I'm sorry,
That's right. Yes, you were.
I was. And anyway,
Do you take all the credit you want?
I do, whenever I can. Anyway, we're glad to have you on. I'm really happy that you messaged me the other
Yeah.
day and said that you wanted to come on. I was able to get management to waive all the fees. So you don't have to pay anything. Everything's good. So why don't you tell
No,
everybody?
but whatever commission I make goes to you. It goes back to you.
Oh, everything gets kicked back to me. Don't tell Rayo though.
Right.
So tell us, Jeffrey. Maybe tell us a little bit about where you are these days and what you're doing.
Sure thing. But I hopped on and he goes, I don't even know what he's doing. He has his headphones on. You have headphones on too. I wasn't listening to New Kids on the Block.
Oh no. Thank God. Anyway, go ahead. Tell everybody what you're doing.
Anyway, so I'm a meteorologist / weather producer for Fox Weather now. Fox Weather, for those of you who may not know, is Fox News Media's kind of version of the Weather Channel. We stream only. We don't have a channel yet, though we do get simulcast on Fox Business on the weekends. And in fact, tomorrow, we're actually going to be simulcast on Fox News for, I believe, an hour from 5 to 6, which is really when the storm is going to be kicking into gear. So that's pretty cool. But we do feature streaming capabilities on our app, on the website, and on a bunch of streaming services coming up. I think Roku and YouTube TV. Really cool stuff right there. If you want to look more into it, you can go to foxweather.com. But it's a nice app, I'll tell you. Like no bias at all. It is a nice app. It's a nice, clean app. The radar is really nice looking. It has 3D radar, and it's just it's very user friendly, I would say.
Good.
So but that's just one microcosm of what we're bringing to the table here.
Right.
And we've made several jumps since we launched on October 25th, and hoping for continued success for the rest of the year. And it's weekends like this that are going to put us to the test. So
Good.
Looking forward to see how
you get to rub shoulders with big celebrities like Amy Freeze and John Marshall.
Yes,
those are my New York peeps right there. I haven't gotten to work one-on-one with Amy just yet, although we've met and talked and everything, and she seems great. And from everybody that I work with there that has worked with her, she is great. She's on top of her game. She's very sharp. She's a great meteorologist to have on the team. But John Marshall, I work with almost every week, and it's so great to have a New York guy, because not all the talent is a New York area guy, but just to be able to talk shop to and kind of geek out about, things like this with the nor'easter blizzard, and even since last week when every day we were talking model runs, talking, I don't get to do that with everybody, but John's a great guy, and it's been fun working with him, especially as someone who sort of grew up watching him, although I can't say that to their face these days, because then you immediately make them feel old. So it's like, oh, you watched me growing up. All right, well, I guess I'm ancient. That's what they say.
You
It comes with
watched
the
you
territory,
watched
Jeff. And
you watched me
about
growing
20,
up.
about 20 to 25 years, in about 20 to 25 years, somebody's going to approach you and say, I remember you. I
Yeah.
used to watch you. I was watching you when I was like 5 years old. You know, that's
I do indeed remember a mustachioed Joe Chaffee covering the blizzard of '96.
Yeah, that was it, which somebody had had the video, and it's on YouTube, by the way. A lot of people have seen it already, but it is there.
You didn't have the mustache at that point. I think it was a few
No,
years earlier, but
no,
yes.
yeah, no, I shaved in '96. My daughter was born in '95. I shaved it when my youngest daughter was born. So yeah, I was stashless at the time, or
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. I got to go back and look.
You looked good. You
I
looked
don't
great.
remember. All right, look. Let's
And one of your anchors that night was Walt Kane.
Yes, Walt Kane and Greg Sergel.
And Greg Sergel, right.
All right. We're shooting for a repeat performance of that tomorrow. It's not going to be quite the same type of storm, but no matter. So let's we just ran through what's going on with the watches and warnings, and we've done another a radar and all the rest of it. So why don't we talk about let's talk about the we'll go to the models. I'll bring up the NAM. And if you want to follow along, Jeff, you can either open up the YouTube show and just mute the volume, so you're about 20 seconds behind, so you can see the graphics of what we're doing, or just open it on your own screen. I'm opening up the NAM from the 18Z run, and we're at the point now. We've talked about this during the week. We're at the point now where, as I said, the models are basically just a sideshow. But I want to just go back to the whole the what's going on with respect to watching this whole thing on the surface. And there's a lot of people have been sort of pointing out, the low where it is. And again, the fact is that there are two lows, and right there you'll see the low on the NAM that's near the coast, and that's the low that's under the upper low that we're watching forming southeast of it, just east of the Delaware coast, or south, or just southeast of the New Jersey coast. There's your second low, the ocean low, and sometimes what happens is, the energy from the forming upper low goes to the ocean low, and then the ocean low goes out and strengthens. This one disappears, and all of this precip here that's back through here that the models have winds up drying up. Well, what the models are suggesting is that the upper low has the greatest influence, and you'll notice how it tries to send all its energy out to the ocean low, and then the ocean low gets pulled back southwestward. That is because of the upper low. All of that has to happen in order for this storm to materialize in the way that is advertised, and we've got 24 hours to do it. So I'm curious, Jeffrey, what your opinions are on this.
Real quick before I get to that, hello, Leon from Lindenhurst, and also yes, Freeze is Amy's last name, real last name. I was just looking at the comments, but yeah, it's interesting to see almost that double barrel forming out there, right around the benchmark. By the way, do either of you gentlemen have heard of the NASA Impacts project?
I did hear something
a
little bit about it, and that.
So my former
No, go ahead.
My former professor, Brian Coley from Stony Brook University, he's actually one of the professors on this. Howard Bluestein from Oklahoma University, for any of you, the weather people out there that may know some people in the community. But basically what it is, I mean, this is a perfect storm. And I know they're super excited. We haven't had any storms like this the last 4 or 5 years, it seems like. Really, since this project's been ramping up, but they are going to be they're going to have radar sensing equipment on the ground over at Smith Point Beach, just south of Massac Shirley on Long Island, at the end of the William Floyd Parkway. They're going to have another team up in Cape Cod driving around with sensing equipment, and then they're going to have the NASA planes flying around and kind of getting that data from the surface, and then they have the data from the upper levels as well. This is all an effort to better understand systems like this. better understand the snow growth at different levels, better understand how these snow bands set up, because that's what you hear us like broken records talking about. Well, okay, you're going to be in the swath of the heavy snow, but are you going to get, an extra 3-4 inches if that band sets up over you? So it's a really cool project that they're actually they have been running for the last couple of years, but now I think this is a storm kind of tailor made to those efforts. So, but what I think is that, I mean, listen, the models, I can't remember the last time. And again, I've been kind of very busy the last 24 hours with other activities. I haven't been watching as much as I would have liked, but up until say yesterday, it was kind of fascinating how I can't remember the last time the Euro dug its heels in and said this is happening, and the GFS dug its heels in and said this is happening. Of course, the Euro being the Western trend and the GFS being the Eastern trend. And then of course, there's the NAM, and the NAM just decided to do what the NAM does best, and be all over the place from one run to the next. But
the NAM is the schizophrenic model. I mean, we have seen it this week, everything from a ton of snow to nothing. Then back to a ton. Last night's run, Joe and I stayed around after our show last night, and we waited out to see what the NAM was going to do. And the NAM was like curving the storm in toward Cape Cod. Like, you talk about the Euro wanting to send this thing way out to the east, and here's the NAM saying, "Oh no, it isn't." So it's been. I'm almost by now. You should stop looking at the models and start nowcasting. But I'm curious to see what the NAM is going to do at zero with the zero Z run tonight.
It's entertainment at that point. Well, it had 33.5 inches on one run and 0 in the next run. I say, all right, well, that's it. It's been nice knowing you. We'll see you for the next storm.
By the way,
kind of a deal.
By the way, I have the NAM upper air on here. I just looked on Tropical Tidbits, and there is an Air Force reconnaissance aircraft going into this right now. So the interesting thing about this in terms of the models, though, was the fact that last night's 0Z run, Joe, if you remember how robust it was, and you that had and the other models were in their own way equally robust. Even the GFS came back westward and produced more, but it had that data in there because they went out last night. They did not go out for the 12Z today. I checked during this morning to see if there was one. I don't think they went out at the 12Z, and the models. I mean, they're still producing, obviously, a big storm. They just kind of backed off a little bit. I'm going to be really curious to see if the data that's going into tonight's 0Z run, I'm going to be curious to see if it winds up on this next run causing the models to suddenly, bump up the numbers again. I don't think it matters at the end of the day in terms of the forecast, whether the models take the numbers up a little or down a little. The die to me is cast. And on this upper air, if you watch closely again on the NAM, we've said this for days now. The upper low that's going to form when that trough reaches the Ohio Valley tomorrow. I'm going to stop the loop here and just kind of run it by hand so we can get the trough there. You see how it drops down, sharpens up, and right in here somewhere tomorrow morning there is, there's some kind of an L, upper low, that starts to be part of that trough, and then all this area of what we call vorticity, the new upper low is forming there right off the New Jersey coast. And again, that is key to this whole forecast because that actually intensifies very rapidly. This is why Cape Cod gets clobbered, because the intensification process of that upper low begins perfectly for them. We're kind of on the edge of it. We're at the very start of the formation of the upper low. It really gets going. Here it is south of Long Island. It's completely closed, and then it really gets going from there. So that's why Southeastern New England gets hammered, because you get all that vorticity goes right over them. Look at that. It's very impressive. The twisting of the jet there is very impressive. And then the whole thing just kind of lifts on out to the northeast. So gonna be curious to see in an hour whether the NAM bumps up numbers, because that could be a sign that extra data is important, and it's not. I mean, it's important regardless, whichever way it goes. But that extra data might make a difference in terms of what we see the models produce tonight.
Right, and the track, the surface low track, as of this hour, the position of the surface low is, well, let's say, a couple of 100 miles to the east of the South Carolina, North Carolina border out over the ocean. And by tomorrow morning, guys, that system is going to be probably just a bit outside of the 4070 benchmark. Now, traditionally, and we've mentioned this many times before, the 4070 benchmark is where New York City tends to get its 12-plus inch snowstorms historically. This is just a little ways to the east of that benchmark, which suggests that maybe New York won't make it to 12, but certainly they're in line for something like 7, 8, 9, 10 inches, especially if the intensification, I think the projected intensification of this system is something like 20 or 22 millibars from 7 o'clock this evening to 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, which also, I might add, indicates all of you who love to look at snow, you may want to set your alarm, because it looks like the heaviest amount of snow, the most intense time for the snow to fall will be right around daybreak tomorrow morning, and then maybe petering out to almost nothing by the time we get to noon, 1, 2 o'clock, because by that time, the storm is curving to the north and passing Cape Cod by late tomorrow afternoon. But by that time, it should pretty much be over with. The damage will have already been done for us. So,
and at that point, the cutoff becomes more north-south than anything. It's the storm kind of flattens out on that western edge at that point. I don't think it's out of the question that we see a sunset in New York City, or at the very least in northern New Jersey.
Yeah, that sometimes happens when you get the back edge, and this goes hand in hand with where the back edge of the snow or where the cutoff line of the snow is going to be. You also have a very sharp back edge of the cloud line. And yeah, I could remember not a few, historic snowstorms in New York, which as they came to a close, I remember the most, in 1967, you remember that year, right, Jeff? 1967, we had a blizzard here in New York, and it hit hard during the morning hours. And I'm figuring that this was going to happen to stay with us right on into the evening. And then lo and behold, by about 5 o'clock that afternoon, this was February of 1967, lo and behold, the skies were perfectly clear. I remember looking at Venus, the brilliant planet Venus in the western sky, and I said, oh, look how beautifully clear it's gotten. How could that have happened? It was just snowing here just a little while ago. But that's what happens sometimes with these major storms. You get a sharp cutoff, and you get a sudden round of clearing. And it's going to clear. If it doesn't clear by just around sunset tomorrow night, it will be in the process of clearing out completely just after sunset. Tomorrow night will be a clear night. And dare I say, if anybody wants to do stargazing tomorrow night, good luck, because it's going to be cold. The winds will still be blowing. Even in New York City tomorrow night, the chill factor is likely to fall below zero, the feels like temperature. Up where I am, I'm expecting like 15 below zero wind chills tomorrow night. I'm wondering whether or not the Weather Service, in the aftermath of tomorrow's snow, issue some kind of a wind chill advisory for tomorrow night.
Hey,
I'm going to give the two.
Jeffrey, just real quick, just so you know, we have a pretty wide audience that covers a very, very large geographic area. So, I mean, we've got folks watching from Southeastern New England. We have folks watching from Maryland. We have folks watching from Virginia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, East, Central, West PA. You get the idea. So I'm just saying, when you use your weather, talk about your weather perspective, sometimes just be aware that what you're saying for one particular specific geographic spot need not necessarily obviously is not going to apply to another. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Sure. I think working at Fox Weather has actually been great for that, because I mean, just really getting to know so much more of the country and kind of breaking out of that hyper local shell that, we've been in for a good amount of our respective careers, but having a broader view and knowing the nuances of different regions has really been quite cool. And, and some of those pronunciations as well in the Pacific Northwest and New England, that's been fun too. for sure. I
And
wanted to give you guys.
don't you dare get it wrong. Don't you dare get the
That's
pronunciation wrong. You'll get phone calls, emails,
uh,
social media posts, you name it. They'll get it. You'll get it.
I'll tell you, I'm no names, no specific references, but it's happened. It's happened. It's inevitable when you have people coming from all walks of the country, and then you have to. Oh wait, where is this? What is this on Long Island? Copiagua? What? How do you pronounce that?
Hapague. Hapague.
Yes, Hapague. Mazapekwa.
Yeah, Massapequa.
In any case,
that's always a good.
Let's not forget John Coleman, the late great John Coleman.
Yeah.
I remember he was doing Good Morning America weather, and he said, and at Islip, Long Island, they had a whole 10 inches of snow. Yeah.
I can't blame people. It looks like Islip. Why would you call it ice slip?
Because it is ice slip.
No, that's what I say.
I mean, when you walk, I walked on the ice and I slipped.
Yes.
All right.
That's what I say.
You don't say I walked on the ice and it's slip.
Yeah, but why is it an S then? It should be ICESL. I don't know. Anyway, I digress.
Right. Yes, you do digress. Move on.
How does the microphone sound, by the way, since I missed my air check?
You sound fabulous.
That's great. I just bought this new condenser mic, so I wanted to give you, Joe's, an over-under since, now that New York State has legalized gambling and we're all into the betting lingo. I'm going to give you guys an over-under for wind gust on Cape Cod tonight or tomorrow morning.
Okay.
81 miles an hour, over-under.
Boy, that's a tough one.
I think
it's possible.
I think they go over. I mean, we're talking about possible like 965 or 970 low,
or even a 960, depending on what happens. I'll say over.
I wouldn't be surprised that someone right on the Cape, even if it's out over the open water where there's less friction, I bet you somebody gets like 87, 88 miles an hour gusts. I saw some of the models hinting at 90 earlier in the week. No, but I think here in the island, it'll be a little less. I wouldn't be surprised if the island gets a 70.
It wouldn't shock me. It wouldn't shock me. By the way, for what it's worth, and it's probably not worth very much, we do have the 0Z HRRR model, because we know how wonderful the HRRR model is, don't we, guys? It's just so brilliant.
That's the only one it's the only one in the. No, actually, it's not. Because there I think 2 or 3 times during the day where the HRRR will actually go all the way out to what, 36 hours or
48 hours on the 0, 12, 18, and 24. So that's usually the one. That's the one I usually those 4. Let me bring it up. I've been watching this all. I've been watching this all day on occasion, not every waking minute, obviously, but I've just kind of noticed that it's hardly changed. It's hardly changed. It really only shows one surface low, and that might be that may be wrong. It doesn't show the stretched isobar out till the end, although it kind of it does do it here. It tries to do it, and you get the low that forms that's more with the upper low. Suddenly it drops to the southwest. But in terms of the snow shield, the western edge, it gets it pretty far north. It gets the snow up to Albany and a little bit beyond, and it gets it west of Scranton, which we were saying that it was important that the western shield for snow lovers, you want to see it at least west of the Pennsylvania New York State, the Pennsylvania New Jersey state line, and you're seeing that. And by the way, you're also noticing on the HRRR you're getting snow down in southeastern Virginia and it's eastern North Carolina, but it's not that much. You get another band that comes down from the northwest, probably as the upper trough does its thing, and swings out toward the coast. So you may get another little surge there. I don't know how much you're going to get out of it though. But you can see how the precip shield there this is at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the back edge is now on the PA New Jersey state line. So by 3 o'clock, the back edge is at New York City. Slows down a little bit. It hangs around Long Island until 8 o'clock, until 7 o'clock. So New York City cuts off at about 3 or 4. At 4 o'clock, but it's still doing it in Suffolk County at 8 and 9 o'clock tomorrow night. So the further east you go, the longer it's going to take for that snow to end. And then the low pulls away. 9:65, passing east of the Cape. It's at 41. What is that? Hold on. 41.6.
Stronger than a lot of tropical storms.
Yeah, and about at 68.7. So this short range model has really not wavered very much. And from the standpoint of snow, because it's going to be 10-to-1 ratios, and it should match up with the liquid. So I'll give it a. Oh, you know what I didn't do after I look at that? I'm going to take, because we didn't really look at the New European. We forgot about the New European, the 18Z, Joe. We got to bring that up on the screen. Boy, shame on us for forgetting about the European.
They only go out to 72, or did Levi fix it so we get the full 90-hour?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the 0ZH by the way. Gives the jerseys. The numbers on all the models are all very close. It gives a foot to the Jersey Shore, a foot plus to Suffolk County. It's very consistent. It gives just under 9 inches in New York City. Yonkers 7.5, Trenton 7.2, and then the amounts tail off as you go into Northwest New Jersey. So all the models have some version of this. Now that was on pivotalweather.com, by the way. Get a subscription and you can get that local, that really close-up local map. So let's look at the European. The European has a 977 low tomorrow morning. And by the way, that's not rain, that's precip. They don't have a one for frozen and liquid. 39 and 70, Joe. Just 1 degree shy of 40 and 70. So it'll probably pass at 30, just shy of the benchmark. Then it's a 977 low at 18Z, 1 o'clock, at 39.5 and 69.8. So it really doesn't move very much in those 6 hours. And then at 21Z, it's a 966 low, and it's at 41.2, 69.2. So that's only about 60 miles northwest of the benchmark, and then it moves. Then it's a 963 as it moves east and northeast and starts to pull away. What I'm really going to be interested in, though, I think, is the total precip generated. So we'll take a look at accumulated precip, total accumulated precip, please, and let's get it on the far enough out. All right, so the liquid melted precip, the 1 inch of liquid. So if you do a 10-to-1 ratio, there's your 10 inches of snow. Eastern Delaware, the eastern part of the Maryland part of the Delmarva Peninsula, up the Garden State Parkway in New Jersey, take the Verrazano to Staten Island, and then take the Goethals to Staten Island, and then take the Verrazano to Brooklyn, and you'll be on the 1 inch line. So you want to use that as the 10 inch line without the fluff factor, and then it goes northeast into Connecticut. Long Island, eastern half of Long Island, between an inch and a half, and 2 inches of liquid. So they're kind of in the jackpot zone on the European. The back edge of a half an inch, which is very important. Trenton, it's actually into southeastern PA, a small area west of Philadelphia, cuts across northwest New Jersey, where it starts to go down to 4/10 and even 3/10 near the border. Again, consistent with what all the models are at the point now where there's so much consistency that it isn't even funny. There's so much consistency.
And if you want to progress a little bit later, using the 24-hour accumulated precipitation by 6Z, which is 1 a.m. Sunday morning, you have all of Cape Cod and Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard in the pink, so to speak, with anywhere from 2 to 2.5 inches of liquid precipitation.
Well,
If you
there's
want to
your
go
there,
straight 10, you want to go straight 10 to 1, that's 20 to 25
right.
inches.
There's your
And if it's a tad
right.
colder, there you go.
There's your probability of at least 30. They actually, the
Yeah.
European has it south and east of where WPC has it. WPC had it north and west of there. But yeah, I mean, there's your max area. Uh, by the way, these were just added by Levi Cowan on Tropical Tidbits. So if you go to global, you go to ECMWF. If you go to EC Fast, that's what he used to have, and he moved all of those into EC Fast. And these are because these are mostly high resolution models. And I'm just gonna go bring us back full screen here for a moment, if I can. You got to understand, Jeffrey. I'm the director, the producer, the audio guy, and everything else. So and after by the time we get to the fifth day of the week, and actually this is the sixth day because we did a show on Sunday. So I'm 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 tired, and particularly right now I'm tired. So if I make technical mistakes, that's why. I'm gonna so you can hang on your chair here, folks. I'm going to tell you what the European numbers were. If I can just get myself organized here. So here we go. High resolution European. And let's go to local. Okay, so let the map load. We'll go to 48 hour 18Z. I had it up on the screen, and this is what happens when you hit the wrong button. And now I have to get winter weather. I'm almost there, folks. Be patient. I'm just about there.
While you're doing that, Joe, let me just thank Andrea B., Thomas Saul, Jason Kaplan for hitting super chats. And in fact, since I was making notes here, I'm trying to find the other people. Jason Kaplan, of course, and Kylo Tech. Snowflakes look like glitter in Essex, New Jersey, according to him.
Nice.
Thank you for hitting super chats, and that's it so far as the update on super chats. I apologize if I missed anybody. I don't think I missed anybody. It was really tough last night with all those people. Let's see, Jason Kaplan and David Fuller. Did I mention David Fuller? David Fuller also.
It's okay if
you
did, you just mention him again. That's perfectly reasonable. The snow map on the European, by the way, again, this is about the third run in a row. It's almost identical. 10 inches plus on the Jersey Shore, the 1 foot line on the the Nassau Suffolk line, basically 15 plus across. I mean, I would love the European map the snow map to verify because it's pretty much my forecast map from earlier. If you go to my late final call forecast map, it looks exactly like the European and like the GAO. They're all it's been like that for the last 3 or 4 runs. So I'm happy if that winds up happening. But and also I should note that if you're looking at these snow maps with numbers, bear in mind that they're 10 to 1 unless you look at the Kuchera. But as retired meteorologist Tony Gigi from Mount Holly, New Jersey, told us last night, the Kuchera snow maps, which are just absolute. I mean, that's Skittles for snow weenies, because it was putting out these just insane 30 to 40 inch amounts, which were just stupid. But nonetheless.
Speaking of 30-inch snow amounts, do you remember the one time? I can't speak for you. It was the only time in my life, and I would gather probably you count on your finger how many times you've woken up to 30 inches.
I know what you're
doing. But yeah,
2013.
You know where I'm going.
2013.
February 8th to 9th.
That was one of the
Friday night.
Yeah, and going out for Chinese food because My wife and my daughter wanted Chinese food, and I'm not a Chinese food. I mean, if it's there, I'll eat it, but I'm not sitting at home. You've never heard from these lips saying, you know what? I'm in the mood for Chinese food tonight. It's just not my thing, okay? But if it's there, if somebody else is in the mood and that's what they decide to get for
Right,
dinner, except they
right.
sent me out to dinner, yeah, that was my favorite. I got some pictures
Uh,
somewhere with yardsticks in my because I had 30. I had at least 30
yeah.
inches. It
Well, I
was
had 32. I've never woken up to. We actually were a little higher. I think we were 32. But I mean, just to get to that 30 mark was incredible. I mean, in that little band and you and I were about 5 minutes away from each other. We were
yes,
both in the same town.
yes.
And another story about that was our lovely town supervisor at the time was vacationing in sunny, warm Jamaica, and our streets weren't plowed until Sunday night. I was working a job I didn't really care for at the time. I wasn't in the weather business yet. So, and I said, if this storm had hit any other time during the week, I would have been getting at least 1 day, if not 2 days off from work because I literally couldn't have gotten out. We went out the next day when the sun came out. We had to walk to the convenience store because they didn't plow the side streets. So that
I'm
was fun.
always amazed. You know, I work with snow. I work with a number of snow removal people. They I they I message them and they ask me what's going on with the weather while they're either getting ready to plow or in the setup in the days before. What my the outlook is. I'm amazed at how many of them will ask me, "Hey, is it going to snow next week? Because I'm going to Aruba." Hey, is it gonna snow next week? Because I'm going to Florida. I'm thinking, this is your busy season. Why are you planning vacations now? Why is it that all these snow removal people
Right?
go to Florida during a time of year that's when they make their money and do their work? It's one of the
That'd be
mysteries of
like an
life I'll never
account.
understand. I will just not understand this.
That's as like an accountant going on vacation in April.
Or
It just
or,
doesn't
or when
happen.
you're working TV and you try to take a day off during ratings when you were
Right.
when you worked at a
Right.
commercial station. It's like,
You get the
really?
big this from your director.
The one thing about being in a relatively small town like I am, and everybody knows everybody where I am in Putnam Valley, and the people who plow the roads, the Putnam Valley Department of Highways, knew me very well. They would sometimes ask for help in various weather situations, and I would give it to them and whatever. And the one nice thing about that is that when we had a situation where we had a potential big storm, and you get the call up, you got to come in early, and there's already like 2 inches or 3 inches of snow on the ground on the road that you need to take out to the Taconic Parkway. I would just simply call up, and I would talk. He's no longer the head of the department, so I'll mention his name right now, is Larry Cobb. And I'd call up, I'd say, Larry, could you do me a favor? Could you send a plow or a sander or somebody down my road here in Putnam Valley so that I can get out? Because I need to get in early at the television station. And within like 5 minutes, here comes the plow, or here came the sander or whatever, right in there and plowing a nice path for me to get out. And that was service, and that's a
Yeah,
nice thing about being,
I had a
I
similar
guess.
I had a similar situation, but I never had to call. I had I had one of the big cheeses in the plowing department lived on the block behind me, and he knew where I lived. So my street was always the first one. I was always the first one done. So I never had a problem. They plowed me in during the blizzard
See,
of '96 because I
that's
hadn't gotten home until it was over with, and I had like a mountain of snow on my driveway, and I couldn't get it. I was in tears because I wanted to go home and go to bed, and I couldn't get there. But
Wasn't there a
they
story,
came and
Joe?
rescued
You
me.
told me one time when yeah, I think that might have been it. You were saying there was a time when you were just like kind of at your wits end, and it was almost as like
Yeah.
the heavens. You
No,
looked
that
up,
was it. That
and then all of
was
a sudden
that.
the lone plow driver comes down the
Yeah, no,
block.
that was it. That's when I met the guy who lived behind me, who worked for the, who was a big cheese in the town, and he was driving one of these big front loaders. No, what happened was I had worked. I
Right.
had
Like a
worked. I left for work.
14-hour shift, probably.
Right. I had left for work Sunday morning at 8 o'clock to go on the air as soon as I got there. And I worked the whole day. I wasn't alone. I had Norm Devoskin with me. I had Neil Avignano with me. But I worked the whole day, the whole night, got maybe 3 hours sleep, broke the four-wheel drive of my truck, decided to just die, to stop working in the middle of the storm. And then worked the whole Monday. And then that certain person who disappeared for 3 days showed up at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I left when the last flake fell. Basically, I drove home as the last flakes were falling. So I drove in. When I was leaving, it started, and I drove in with the snow coming down. And when I drove home, I drove with it coming home. And as soon as I got home, the snow stopped. Well, when I got home, there was like the town had plowed the street, but they plow your driveway and it just keeps piling up. The curbs just keep piling up. I must have had like 5 feet there. So I was able to get my snowblower and I started to try to dig that out because I had to get my vehicle off the road, and it was futile. I had over 3 feet of snow in the driveway. I had this 5 foot mountain at the bottom, and of course it was all caked. And I was so tired that I really did. I just kind of looked up at the heavens and said, God, I can't do this anymore. And then the next thing I hear is this big front loader coming down the street, and I waved him down, and he was a great guy. He immediately not only opened up my driveway, but then took all the snow, pushed it up the driveway and then lifted it up and threw it all in the backyard. So, and then I was able to just basically go to bed, go get in the house and go to bed. But yes, I did cry to the heavens, and the Lord did listen, and the Lord did grin as
Yes.
as he feasted upon the lambs and the slows and the fatted calves and fruit bats and breakfast cereals. He did shine his light upon me that particular day, thankfully, uh, to get rid of that snow.
You guys were mentioning before how cold it's going to be Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Dingle Sidgets. Dingle Sidgets Sunday morning.
Dingle Sidgets.
Go below guidance. Go below guidance.
Well,
this is another time, just like we had a couple of weeks ago. You go below guidance.
You got the snowpack. You got to have the snowpack.
I've already seen the weather service lowered their temperatures by 5
degrees
degrees for Sunday.
Yeah, but
easily.
But the winds are still going to be rather strong. I mean, wouldn't we do that only in like a radiation?
No, Joe, cold advection. That's real cold. The actual cold. The air itself is going to be that cold.
Right, even with the wind, and the wind chills are going to be brutal.
Hey,
brutal. Here's a stat for you guys. So it has been 4,050 days since the last time that Miami, Florida dropped below 40 degrees. That's 11 years and change.
Really? That long?
And the forecast, yes, the forecast low on Sunday morning is 38. So looks like we might break that streak. We've got freeze warnings. Now Miami's out of the freeze watch. Miami's out of the freeze watch, but you go, they're just, I guess the urban heat island effect, if you will. They're right on the cusp of the city. You go out towards the Everglades, it's a freeze warning. I can't remember the last decade ever seeing it get that far south. So it checks out to me.
By the way, the NAM has begun. And by 7 a.m., there's supposed to be 7 on the ground at Toms River and at Long Branch and at Brentwood, 5 in the city. I want to just take a look at the radar. Let me see.
And while you're doing that, Hank O'Donnell hit Super Chats twice. And the first time he was asking about the weather, how much snow in Lambertville, New Jersey, New Hope, Pennsylvania area. Hank, at least from what I plotted out, it looks like you're going to be in the 4 to 8 inch zone for the final snow total there. And your second question, is
that's the one I like.
And he says, please advise the correct beer to snow ratio. I'd like a professional opinion. 1 6-pack per inch. I hope not.
No,
Is there
hold on. hold on, that's my department because anybody who's
That's a 48 pack.
no, yeah, no. My winter storm rules are well for I use wine, so you use one bottle of wine for every inch. Okay, so if that's what you need to get you through the storm. So if you want to use the beer equivalent, I don't think you want to use 6 packs for every inch because the math there gets pretty
One
tough.
beer per inch.
So
One
let's
beer
one
per
beer
inch is
per
a
inch
safe.
would be the same
One
thing.
beer per inch
And
is safe.
by the way, take a
And that I mean, yeah. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. By the way, I just want to say, the radar's really filled in just since we've been on the air. If you
It
remember earlier,
has.
there was stuff was starting to develop, but there were gaping holes. But now you're starting to see the precip really blossom out from the coastal low as it develops, and also beginning to see some of the darker greens showing up in New Jersey. Probably if wait till after 9 o'clock, we check the observations. I'll bet there might be even a couple of moderates starting to break out in the areas on the radar where you see the darker green. So radar getting there, and I imagine in the next hour, it's doing it quick. It's doing it quickly. So, and I'll go further south. You can see the precip that's down in eastern North Carolina probably doesn't. The low is pretty far out, so we're not going to be able to see the radar echoes at any kind of convection there. But radar getting more and more impressive very quickly.
I think we're going to wake up tomorrow to a lot more than we thought. I mean, things are really going to get going between like midnight and 4 a.m.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that. It is going to happen fast. Let's see. By 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, just to give you some numbers. All right, just under 10 in Tom's River. Again, these are 10 to 1s, so if we start to get into those higher ratios, it's not going to show up on the maps like this. Just under 10 at Long Branch, just under 10 at Islip. So they've picked up about 2 to 3 inches in the 3-hour period from 7 a.m. to 10. And Bridgeport 4.8, Providence just under 9, Boston 7, and Barnstable on the Cape by 10 o'clock tomorrow morning has already, according to the NAM, 13. And by 1 o'clock, you've got 10.5 at Tom's River, 10.5 at Long Branch, 11 at Brentwood. You know what? These numbers are very close to what they've been. It's a shade north and west of New York City. It's a shade lower. The numbers have come down a little bit, but near the coast they're pretty much the same. So again, in terms of the forecast,
Tom's River is like also Jersey's also done by about 2 o'clock tomorrow, so they're definitely going to wake up probably with the bulk of the snow they're going to get. Whereas Barnstable or the Cape, you've almost hardly got going. So the fact that they're waking up with 13 with lots still to come, that's pretty glaring.
Yeah. All right.
And you're going to get some incredible drifts too with that wind. You get 5 foot, 10-foot drifts.
Right. Boston at this point has 12. Providence has 12.5. Worcester has 9. Hartford 6. Waterbury 4. Not that much north and west of Route 84, Joe. Poughkeepsie 2.3. Middletown 2.2. Down in to the south, Philly 4.2, Wilmington only 2.99. Those numbers also have come down just a little bit on the western side.
It's funny because I'm looking at Les Plumes de la Brioche.
Les Plumes.
Yes.
And they're calling, basically it's a very homogeneous, both White Plains and Poughkeepsie final snow totals from the storm of 10 inches. And
they haven't.
How's the air mass in place looking? Because it is an Arctic front coming through. That's you're probably talking about really low RHs. So I mean, up by Poughkeepsie, you're probably dealing with that drier air coming in.
I'm looking at Block Island here. Block Island for the storm 15.62. That seems a little. If they had 15.62, I could believe that, but I'm still trying to scratch my head as to why they're going for as much as 10 in in Poughkeepsie. I mean, you would have thought there would have been maybe like half of that.
That's Poughkeepsie. That seems high to me in Poughkeepsie.
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 Yeah, Poughkeepsie.
Cape Hip.
Hip hip hooray! Oh, brother.
And we don't often look, at this time of the year at the Storm Prediction Center. I mean, it's very unusual to have any kind of convective activity, although there may be some
They talk sometimes
around.
about the snow, about snow stuff.
Right.
I should take a look. Hang on.
And I'm looking at the 7:45. Now this is Central Standard Time. This was only issued about 15 minutes ago from the Storm Prediction
All
Center.
right, I'm going to bring it up on the screen, Joe. Just give me a second. Let me play catch up here. We'll go SPC and see what they're doing. SPC. Oh, come on. Loading. Up, there we go. The mesoscale heavy snow discussion has issued 14 minutes ago. Here's the area at risk in the blue, coastal and southern New Guernsey. Go ahead, Joe. You can read away.
Sustained snow rates in excess of 1 inch per hour, increasingly probable near southern New Jersey coastal areas. Now, it looks like Atlantic City is going to continue to stay ahead of the ball game, and stay ahead of everybody in other parts of the Northeast in terms of snow. This is for near southern Jersey coastal areas and parts of eastern Long Island by midnight Eastern Standard Time. So there you go, Jeff and Joe. The stuff is starting to hit the fan, so to speak.
Yep.
And we'll be there by the witching hour.
All right, so look, we're coming up on 9 o'clock here, so we're kind of sort of beating a dead horse into the ground. I don't think there's much more that we can add to. Well, Jeff, unless you've got something on your mind that you want to share, I thought maybe this might be.
No, I think early on in the week. I mean, usually I think I have a better gauge for sniffing the storm BS out early. I mean, I just looking at everything, just the pattern that was in place, the North Atlantic blocking, the jet, how cold the air was. I was like, I'd be surprised if this, and the GFS had it going out to sea a little bit. I was like, I just don't know. It looked like there was a perfect Greenland block. I thought this was going to be something from the get-go. I don't think the models were terrible, the NAM notwithstanding. This kind of seems on par for what I thought it was going to be, and I think we're going to get some surprises. We're going to get those heavy snow bands setting up. Someone might wind up with, over 2 feet up in New England, but it always looked like a Boston bomb, right, too. I never thought this was going to be a New York City bomb. Of course, I mean, I had no idea of knowing exactly where the low tracked over, but I had a feeling it was going to be a little bit to the right of the benchmark. And nothing's really stood out to me that it's really shocked me or surprised me. Knocked my socks off with this. But it's nice. It's nice to have a storm like this.
Ed Tringo hitting super chat. Thanks, Ed. And he says it's 30. It's snowing in Amityville rather steadily, but it's not sticking. And he wants to know why. And I'm just I'm guessing here. The temperature's probably it's been 32, 33 all day, and still this evening. It's probably not snowing hard enough. So once you pick up the intensity to, if it were snowing, say, at the rate of about an inch an hour, that 32, 33 would easily become 31 or 30. And, of course, later on tonight, once the north wind kicks in, you start to get the colder air down. And the low has to start to develop to do that, by the way, Ed. You got to get when the low really starts to get going, that's when it'll really begin to pull down the very cold air from the north, and you will accumulate. Scott Donig hitting super chat also. Thank you, Scott. Most appreciated for hitting the super chat tip jar. 332 likes on the board tonight, Joe Rayo. I'm sorry, 333. So we're 67 likes shy of 400. Do we go for 400?
Again.
Or do we?
Well, first of all, Mark G has an answer for the question that was asked by Ed Tringo. He just simply says, it's the damn moon angle.
Ah, yes. Actually, Jason Kaplan has the right, probably the right answer, they brine the roads. So if it's not sticking to the roads, they did brine. They more than likely brine the roads. So
Uh, Senor Chaffee taught me long ago when we were at FiOS together that you really have to watch out for those gremlins that live under the surface, under the streets.
yes.
They have little torches underneath that can really warm the road, and then the snow won't stick. And then also you have to take into account the angle of those streetlights, those darn streetlights. I mean, warming things up.
Oh, absolutely. The street light angle is huge. The street light angle is it's just huge. We had actually somebody talking about the sun angle for this for tomorrow. That it was that not just here, mind you, not just here, but in New England, that the snow was not going to stick because of the sun angle in New England. Okay.
How much
In
sun do
Maine,
you get
in
in
New
Maine
Hampshire.
this time of year? 3 hours? You get 3 hours of sun. The sun's like, the sun goes up with the tree line and then sets.
Must we listen to
Well,
this?
no, must we listen to all this? That's correct. 9 likes away, folks. If you get us to 400, we'll shut up and leave. So, but actually, in all seriousness,
I was going to say the only time you get a sticking issue is when you have something like what happened last week with the anafrontal, rain going over to snow, and you have the warm air at the surface and the cold air intrudes in, but by that point it's too late. So, it did eventually go over to snow from rain, but nothing was ever going to stick because it was 44. When I got into work, it was 44. And I'm looking at my coworkers saying, is this even going to change over? Is it going to change over for like an hour, 2 hours? But the surface temperature never dropped below like 38 degrees. So it's situations like that. And I'm driving in that day, crunch, crunch, crunch. Yes, I get it because, no one wants to be liable for a car slipping off the road on one rogue patch of ice. So everything is salted and brined, down to the
no, I know,
melting the road, but
right.
melting the paint off of your car. But yeah, that would, like, a storm like that was never going to produce anything. Whereas, even the flurries today were sticking on contact on my porch. So
Brandon,
it is cold.
Brandon Doherty hitting super chat tonight, watching the weather from Delaware, from the great state of Delaware. It's always my favorite. Whenever I drive south and I'm on I-95. I love Delaware because you go. First of all, how can you not love a state? If I remember correctly, they got no sales tax in Delaware, I believe.
That's correct.
Okay.
The Christiana Mall.
Right. So
the Christiana Mall.
So
in,
before we sign off,
I don't know if it's Newark or Wilmington.
Before we sign off, Joe, we have to figure this out now. So when are we going to be on tomorrow? I assume we're going to be on tomorrow.
Yes.
Right?
So if we're going to be on tomorrow, I would prefer, if you can, because my daughter and my son-in-law and my grandsons are coming tomorrow for a post-birthday dinner, which and I'm going to be, I had 2 turkeys in the freezer, so I took one out and defrosted, so it's going to be kind of a Thanksgiving, happy that daddy and pop daddy / pop are not sick anymore, and that he feels better. So it's kind of a Thanksgiving birthday sort of thing. And so if we could we do it like maybe in the mid-morning? Well, does that work for you? Even a short show, like around 10:30?
Yeah. Let's see. The Bugs Bunny is over by 10. And, 10:30 would work.
All right, so we're set. So tomorrow morning, folks, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time, the Joe and Joe Weather Show. We'll do a special Saturday morning show, and please tune in. At least there's going to be stuff going on, so we'll have plenty to talk about. So 10:30 Eastern Time tomorrow. 423 likes. Thank you for those of you who hit the like button tonight. It's still not too late to do it, but we love it when you like the show. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can watch the Joe and Joe every time it's on, which is at least 5 days a week. And this week, we're going to make it 7 in a row. Thank you to all of you who have hit Super Chat tonight. Thank you for hitting the Super Chat tip jar, especially appreciated by Joe and I. And a big thank you to my pal and new dad, and, well, just an all-around, he's an okay guy.
All around okay guy. He's okay. He's not great. He's not terrible.
Our Jeffrey. That's our Jeffrey. Geoff Bansen.
Geoff, you're a new dad, I know. Let me just tell you, and I'm sure Joe will agree with me, it's going to go very, very fast. Some nights he may be crying and keeping you awake and saying, I can't deal with this. But you're going to yearn for those days many years from now. It's going to go very... I used to do something. I used to tie a little red towel around my son's neck when he was like 1 year old. And I used to lift him up, and we'd go all around the house. I'd say, it's Super Baby. It's Super Baby. And a while back, my son looked at me and said, Dad, I want to ask you a question. I said, yeah. He says, how come you don't do Super Baby with me anymore? He's 31 years old. And it seems like it's just yesterday. So it's going to go quick, my friend. Enjoy the ride while it lasts.
We've developed some little quirky things where we play music for him and do little silly dances for him. So hopefully those are going to be the stories that kind of what you're referencing right here. Down the road, it'll be nice to look back and be like, hey, remember when we used to do the Stinky Cheese Man with you, or what? Yeah, he's got really smelly feet, so we call him the Stinky Cheese Man.
See?
So I come up and I go, do you smell that, hon? I think the Stinky Cheese Man is afoot. He giggles, and it's like he knows what we're talking about. It's really funny. But thank you so much, Joe and Joe, for that. I appreciate it. And, I will say this. He is a very good sleeper. No matter what he puts us through during the day, he's actually given us a chance to get some decent sleep, which is very important now because I'm back to waking up on those early morning or early FiOS hours, which you guys never really knew. But, boy, that was yeah. Oh my gosh. And everyone gives me you're young. I'm like, have you seen the top of my head lately?
You're not
sprouting out like
you're not young for long. You're not when you work those hours. You're not young for long. No.
Yes.
The gym helps. The gym has been a great thing, but again, harder to get to the gym when you've got a little guy to take care of. So it's just a juggling act. Life is just one big juggling act at this point, and balance and hope for the best. So,
and let me just point out one last thing to a good friend of Joe and I's, Chris Cimino, who for many years was on the Today in New York show on Channel 4, and then they sent him his walking papers, kind of in the same way that they sent Joe and I our working papers. But Chris was really, really, really hard on getting back into television, and he is now back. But he is back on Pix 11, believe it or not. But he's doing only 2 hours a day. He's on, if any of you are not doing anything at 4 o'clock in the morning, on the air. He's on from 4 to 6 a.m. on Pix 11. And I guess if you really want to get back in, but I don't know, 4 to 6 a.m. for me is a little bit, if I had to do it, if they said, hey, Joe, can you fill in for a few days at 4? Yeah, that's one thing. But to do it every single day, at our age, like Joe, Chris, I presume is right about where we are, right, Joe?
Yeah,
he's of age.
He used to be. I don't think I could do that. He used to be younger than us, Joe, but he's far older now. Just so you know. Just so we're clear.
Looks,
he aged faster than we. I'm teasing. He's actually. I think he might be a year or two younger than us. I know he's several pounds younger than me. Let's put it that way. That I know. So,
are you talking pounds in weight or price?
No, in weight. In the way that it matters. In weight. That money's a different story.
We're going across the pond.
Oh, no. He's always maintained. He's always been very svelte. He took care of himself. I tried to take care of myself, but my genetics were a little bit different than his. Let's put it that way.
What you're looking here is 17 years of doing morning drive radio. And then, it wears on you. Let's put it that way.
I
So,
thought that was just Joe. I thought you just brought back some snow from Antarctica with you.
oh no, no, that's it's talk about crazy hours. I mean, the sun in Antarctica now is setting like at, or the part of we went to, setting at like 11:30 and coming back up at 2:30 in the morning.
How did you guys sleep down there? It was probably light so dark. You probably needed like blackout curtains on the ship.
We had very dark drapes in our room, so we really didn't notice it. However, I usually 2 or 3 times a night, nature will call, and woke up a few times, like at 2:30 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'd go over to the drapes and open it up and like. it's sunrise already. It's morning.
It was great. It really was great. I have to just say how you kept. Because I was like, I hope Joe's not killing himself to get on here and make these posts. Clearly, the ship had perfectly good Wi-Fi to allow you to do that. But it was really cool to kind of get to follow along with you and experience that, because that's just such a I could firmly like I'm not. Oh, I guess I am a betting man these days ever since New York allowed it. But I would put money on never ever getting to go on any kind of cruise in the Arctic Ocean, let alone one that involves a solar eclipse. So
that's a solar eclipse, but it also was a whole bunch of other things. It was not a Disney cruise. It was not a Carnival cruise.
Right.
This was an exploration cruise on literally a pretty tough icebreaker. We were going through ice.
No pun intended.
My God, it was just like crunch, crunch, crunch. But it was an amazing experience, and I was very, very flattered that they had asked me to come on board. And I would never. They allowed me to bring Renata on board with me, and we would never have been able to afford that kind of a cruise. And they paid for everything. All I had to do was just give 4 talks and help the captain try to maneuver the ship for the eclipse, which was clouded out. But we knew that was going to happen because at that time of the year, it's always kind of cloudyish down in Antarctica. But it was great. It was a wonderful experience. And you said we had great internet. Actually, I use this analogy for the internet that we had down there. You see those old television episodes of Superman with George Reeves, where he would fly through a window, land. Jimmy and Lois would be in a jail cell, let's say. Don't worry, Jimmy and Miss Lane, I'll get you out. And he'd open the bars and boom, they were out. If we could equate the internet to that on that ship, Superman would fly through the window. He'd see Lois and Jimmy, and he said, "Don't worry, Jimmy and Lois, I'll have you out." And like 10 minutes, they said, "Give me a few more minutes and I'll have you out." That's how slow the internet was, but still, it did the job. It got the signal out, and we were able to share our adventure on a daily basis from all the way down at the bottom of the world. It was great.
So I got 2 things here in the chat. First, Johnny Guest said, would I fly into a hurricane with the hurricane hunters? I think I'm crazy enough to do that these days, although having the baby would make me think twice about that. But a year ago, I would have said absolutely. It's weird. I have an incredible fear of heights, but as long as I'm, whether it be in a plane or, strapped into something, I feel secure. I think I would do that. I think that's just such a cool thing. I would do that. I don't know if my wife would let me do it these days. And David Erickson also asks, Joe, is that still your Christmas tree in the background?
Yeah, it is. It is. I actually, I'm seriously considering just leaving it up all year because my grandsons come, and I was thinking, because I have trains. You can't really see it because I can't turn my laptop right now, but with the camera. But I've got trains up. I've got kitchen cabinets that go they go down one side and then they go across the other, and there's shelving on the top because I have a very high roof. High ceilings, so I have my one of my train sets up there, along with some other Christmas train stuff that runs across. So I want this way my grandkids can feel like every time they're going over to Pop's house, it's that kind of a happy time like Christmas. That's sort of how I'm looking at it.
Pop. I think it's time for us to pop out because
Yes.
it's 9:16 and I'm getting tired, and I know you are
I'm
too.
exhausted. So all
we'll
right.
see-
10:30
see you tomorrow morning.
All right, guys.
10:30
Busy
tomorrow
day
morning.
tomorrow.
Patreon
Enjoy.
Patreon members that are watching, I'm going to post the Zoom link on Patreon as soon as we sign off, and the window will be open. So if you want to jump on, you can. And we'll see you tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern.
450 likes. 450 likes. We got it.
Good.
Congratulations.
All right. Very good. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks
Bye,
for having
Jeffrey.
me, guys. Appreciate it. Take care.
Bye-bye, guys.